This is the Effing One Podcast, Australia's only Formula One podcast with Adam and Luke.
G'day and welcome to the Effing One Podcast, Australia's only dedicated Formula One podcast recorded in the postcode 4216. This little Aussie battler Grand Prix of a podcast is all about the downtrodden. The little ones, the little guys, the little towns, the little people, big people, fat people, short people, and all different types of colours, sexual identities and genders. If you identify as a ficus, this is the podcast for you if you like Formula One. If you don't, then it's really not for you. It's very exclusive, only for people who like Formula One and being a little bit silly. Welcome aboard. I'm your captain, Luke. We have our famous charity. It's actually making the rounds around the world. It's called Hand Jobs for the Homeless. Now, do your part. Get down to your local homeless shelter and give them some good hand love. Nothing says, I think and I care about you. Don't buy them food. Don't give them money. That's just disrespectful. Reach down into their dirty drawers and give them some of that hand relief that they cravenly desire. You should be doing it right now. Stop the podcast and go. Go down to your homeless shelter. Get down on your knees and get some weird coloured spunk in your hair. This podcast also comes with a vomit-free guarantee. If anything that I say or do promotes projectile vomiting, I will come to your place of residence. It may take a while. Leave the clothing there and I'll come and I'll clean it up myself. That is the vomit-free guarantee. Now, the Italian Grand Prix was quite some time ago. At the Monza Grand Prix, but some of the talking points, Nick De Vries gets his call up because Alexander Albon had a bit of a sore gut, had himself an appendix surgery which went a little bit pear-shaped, but he's okay now. He's all mended. Nick De Vries did a fantastic job standing in for him. He beat Nicholas Latifi, which was no surprise to anyone. And Nicholas Latifi is now out of a job. That's how quickly it happened. No more Nicholas Latifi, no more Laquifi, no more people call him Gotifi. I don't know if that's the greatest of all time, Efi. Maybe he's just a bit shit. But that is Nicholas Latifi. He'll be done at the end of the year. He could be going to another team, you don't know. He could be a reserve driver, he could be a main driver for Haas. He could be going to Alpine. I doubt it. I think he'll be sitting on a yacht, hanging out with his daddy's billions and enjoying the high life. Or he could be giving us more interesting how to wash your hands with soap, because we all loved when F1 drivers told us how to do that. I also appreciated when Romain Grosjean did it. He should have done it when he had his hands burnt. That would have been even funnier. The super license saga went on, and it ended with the little man in the United States. His dad is Brian Herter. His name is Colton Herter. He didn't have enough points for a super license. He didn't win the IndyCar Championship. He wasn't even in the top three. But he had a bit of a shit year this year. He's with the same team, but he just didn't step up to Will Power, Queensland's own Toowoomba-born Will Power. He's in his 40s and the bloke still wins the championship ahead of his teammate and another 40-plus-year-old Scott Dixon. So clearly the geriatric IndyCar Grand Prix Championship Series, whatever you want to call it, is done and dusted for the season. So Will Power could get a drive in Formula One if anyone comes calling for an aged superstar of the streets. And he also broke Mario Andretti's pole record. Very good job by Will. Maybe he can go on to win another championship. So Herter doesn't have enough super license points. He has been deemed by the FIA that you don't amount to jack squat. You don't get a super license. You won't get a drive at AlphaTauri. So AlphaTauri probably won't release Pierre Gasman Gasly to Alpine. Alpine is still looking for drivers, so is Heath and Williams. There's some drivers out there, but I think the whole super license points, who can get them, who can't get them, it's a bit silly. If they're a decent enough driver and if they can drive a car at a certain speed for a certain amount of time, I think they are fine. Now, Nick de Vries doesn't have... He's won Formula E. I think he won Formula 2 as well. He's winning every other F series except for Formula 1, but now he's well in the sights of a couple of teams. Piastri sat out a year. Latifi could, just take a year out, do the Daniel Ricciardo thing, and see if he can get a top drive for, I don't know, maybe some kind of Porsche Super Cup team. You never know. But I think there's a certain amount of drivers, there's certain talent in IndyCar that could clearly compete with F1. If you have drivers like Nikita Mazepin, Nicholas Latifi, Alex Young, there's a lot of guys there who made their way to F1, had a super license, raced. Kimi Raikkonen got an exception to get into Formula 1. When he first came in, he only had just over a dozen of, I think it was Renault Euro Cup races that he had, and bang, he was straight into Formula 1. So there is exceptions. They could have made exceptions, but they didn't because he's American and it's IndyCar and it's not under the FIA. Bin Sulayem really doesn't care about anyone from America unless it's Haas and they're giving him money. So I think there should be a good driver coming from IndyCar. I would like to see maybe Scott McLaughlin, who's a New Zealander, or having Colton Herta or someone of the likes. There's even Alex Palou, who is a Spaniard who won last year's IndyCar Championship. I think that would be definitely some solid drivers. Pat O'Ward. There's a lot of good talent there who've either been in F1, were on the way to F1. Will Power was on his way to F1 before he ran out of money, and then he got a drive at in IndyCar land. So I hope there is some of that talent because it is there. Bring him over to F1 and make it happen. So this podcast is about making Formula 1 great again. It's what we do. It's what we think about. How can we constantly make Formula 1 great again? And this is also a /Nerang Grand Prix update. Yes. Today I made it on the airwaves of Gold Coast 92.5. It is the Triple M 92.5 now, I think it's called. It's a former station that Adam, my co-host who is ghosting me, the co-host who ghosts, Adam, he worked at that radio station. He sort of he found another job, got made redundant. Now he's back there. And I managed to get on the radio station that he's at. He wasn't on air at that morning, but I got on this morning. And they were asking what kind of event could the Gold Coast bring in and would be a massive success. And of course, I was the first caller in. I hung up on them because I thought second of it in regards to my audio quality. And they called me back straight away and like, do you want to tell us something about an event to come? No, yeah, sure. She goes, I'll put you through to the team. So I went through and I promoted Formula 1 coming to the Gold Coast. And I said there would be no better to have the race on the streets of Nerang, the Monaco of the Gold Coast. The team shot me down and said maybe MotoGP. I said, no, MotoGP doesn't have the reach of F1. And then they started talking about the running of the bulls or the tomato throwing festival they have. And then they started talking absolute nonsense, which I fake laugh at because my point was to bring F1 to the streets of Nerang. And unfortunately, it didn't really seem to bite. But the mission does go on. If you happen to listen to Gold Coast Radio this morning, you heard my name, you heard my voice. They made up a suburb. They said I was from Clear Island Waters. I never told them such a thing. I'm from Runaway Bay. That's where this podcast is being made. So hopefully, maybe someone heard it and thought, you know what, that's not a bad idea. Let's steal it from Melbourne Sorry, Melbourneites. Not while there's certain people in charge that are making it difficult for me. But I want Nerang to be on the Formula One calendar. And this little Aussie Battler podcast is trying as well. Now let's look at Italy, the Italian Grand Prix. I'm giving the race ratings 3 out of 10. It was pretty shit. Daniel Ricciardo had a bit of an engine problem towards the end, and they never got the race started. Nothing says we need Michael Massey back than a race that's under safety car, and they get the car pulled away, and you know what? They don't get the race started. They didn't make everyone unlap themselves, but they still didn't get the race started. They could have had a one-lap dash, but where's Michael Massey? Where's that man who'll make that decision? He's in Australia, helping out the V8 supercars. The Supercar Series. That's great. But we wanted a motor race, Michael. We wanted a motor race, didn't we, Toto? We didn't get one. We could have had an opportunity to overtake Max Verstappen on the last lap of a race, and they didn't do it. Race finished Max Verstappen first, Charles Leclerc second, and George Russell third. Now the awards for the Italian Grand Prix, the Green Award for saving the environment, for lowering your carbon footprint and thinking about all the green tree frogs that suffer from excess carbon. I'm giving it to Aston Martin with a double DNF. Congratulations. Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll both didn't finish the Monza Grand Prix, and they lowered their carbon footprints. Typical of Sebastian. He's very green-thumbed. He's very forward-thinking, and he's an eco-terrorist. I love it. Bring him on, and he's like, you know what? Let's finish the race as well. This isn't going to work. And Aston Martin, they're green. They get the green award. Congratulations. The Likkonen Senate Award for the best overtaking manoeuvre of the race. Now, there was a couple of good manoeuvres into turn 6, which is, I think it's the two right-handers after the chicanes. Fantastic move, Mick Schumacher. And I think it was early on in the race, another good move into that section. Not an easy move, but they made it happen. Maybe it's the new cars, maybe it's the new regulations. We don't know, but they made moves there, which rarely ever happens. The next one, but for me, the Likkonen Senate Award goes to Lewis Hamilton, who got the biscuits on a pit outlap from Lando, and Gasman were racing in front of him. Gasman has gone around the outside of Lando. Lando's kind of got held up by Gasman coming out of turn 2, and then slipping under the left-hand side there of Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton takes them both in a fantastic trickery move. They were off to the right-hand side bickering, and he's just slide on the way through. Now, he didn't slide up the field quite like Max Verstappen did, but that in particular got the Likkonen Senate move for taking two guys at once, which is similar to what Lewis Hamilton does on the weekends. Pastor Maldonado Award, the award for dangerous driving. Now it's going to go to Valtteri Bottas for his move on Kevin Magnussen. He hit the back of Magnussen, then gets tapped from behind by Mick Schumacher. Magnussen goes straight through the chicane, so he doesn't have to go around it. He goes, I've been hit from behind like that. Does that mean I can cut a corner? And then Bottas gets on the radio and says, I got hit from the rear. That's why you hit him? No. If you look at the footage, you'll see you hit straight in the back of Magnussen, and then Mick hit the back of you. Clear and simple. Bottas just managed to omit that little bit towards his team. They're like, that's bad luck for Bottas. He just got a little tap and that's put him into... No, don't fall for that bullshittery. Now, the next... one of the beautiful awards, hand-whittled by producer Pete, the man on the dials making sure this podcast isn't too hot or too cold. Congratulations, Pete, for doing such a great job. And if you happen to get on the World Wide Web, Pete does have a business. It's the Pete's Meat. No one can beat Pete's Meat. Go in, check it out, and buy some meat. Hand-chosen and hand-carved, whittled from a delicious cow. That's Pete's Meat. No one beats Pete's Meat. the Effing One Podcast Award for making Formula One great again, and one bloke did, Nick De Vries, on his debut in a Williams, getting points. Now, not only did he get points, he couldn't even get out of the fucking car. This bloke was so tired and exhausted from driving around Monza, one of the easiest fucking tracks, and he couldn't get out of the car. He had to get someone to help him out because the FIA has certain instructions. If the car's on fire, you need to be able to extract yourself in, I think it's under 5 seconds. So they start the watch, you need to unclip, jump out, and get out of the fucking car. I think it's 5 seconds, it could be 8 seconds, I don't know. Probably need to ask Grosjean on how long it takes to get out of a Formula 1 car and if it's safe to do so. But he couldn't get out of the car. That's how physically demanding these cars are, even at a reasonably easy track like Monza on the body. Sure, your neck might be a little bit sore going through Parabolica and the couple of corners and the fast chicane out the back, the Ascari chicane. But it's not a Singapore. It's not a bumping over Monaco. It's not a Suzuka. It's just a little bit of Monza. So if he races this weekend, if Alex Albon isn't fit enough to race on the streets of Singapore, he is not going to be able to get out of that fucking... It'll be a puddle in Singapore. It's that demanding. Most drivers struggle to get out of the car from Singapore. So he needs to up his fitness, but he's definitely quick enough. It's amazing how much adrenaline can do. And he was absolutely gone, done and dusted. And he couldn't get out of that fucking car. Poor fella. But the other Dutchman, Nick De Vries, the real Dutchman, not born in Belgium like that other fella. Great job, Nick De Vries, making Formula 1 great again on a great debut. And the next award is the Yuji Ide Award for wasting everyone's time. No one wastes your time quite like Valtteri Bottas. Now, that man has had so many DNFs, got nothing to do with him, but he's wasting my time. He's wasting your time. And in fact, Alfa Romeo is just wasting it. If it's not Zhou not finishing a race, now it's Valtteri. It doesn't make sense. Can you make two cars that are reliable, that can finish a race? Nah. One guy will end a fucking race. I want to see both of these cars in the points by the end of the year. Alfa Romeo, you need to hang your head in shame. And the last, final award, it's the... Oh, wait, it does have a special audio that comes with it. Yeah, here it is. That's right, it's the Your Shit award. And now there's one person who's to blame. And who was the shittest of shit for the entire Grand Prix weekend. And it came to a head at the end of the race. I've already mentioned it briefly. But whoever that race director was is not taking a page out of Michael Massey. If you want a motor race done, you don't finish it under safety car. Now, I think there needs to be a whole rejig of the rules. If there is a safety car within 10% of the finish, red flag it. Get it all cleaned up. Everyone can go from it. I don't care if it's a standing start like they do with normal red flags, or it's under safety car and it's a roll, like they roll out a pit lane and then bang, they're ready to go. I think they need to make the race an ending. Don't fuck around behind a safety car for a little bit of time and we'll go, is it going to happen? Is it? No, it doesn't. Make some rules, make some adjustments, and if there's a red flag caused by a late safety car, don't let them touch the car. No new tyres, no little bit of fuel out or in, no adjustments on the wing, no little changes that they do with every other racing car series. Red flag, you don't get to touch a fucking thing. Plain and simple, leave it the way it is. As soon as that late safety car's in, boom, red flag. Stop the race, get everyone in the pit lane, everyone out of pit lane, done. It's that simple. Make it happen. Don't finish a race under safety car. Even if there's a crash on the last lap, no, just let it race. Let it race. It won't be the leader. It'll be someone else. Let him finish. Let him have a bit of fun. That's my beef. So I think that your shit as the race director, you're not Michael Massey. You're a bit of a joke. You're shit. The fastest lap was Sergio Perez with 1 minute 24.030. The fastest pit stop was a 2.1 second pit stop, and that was done by the fantastic Red Bull Racing team. Once again, they are flying in the pits, so that's 2.1 seconds. Car comes to a stop, 4 tyres off, 4 tyres on. The car goes 2.1. That's bloody quick. And driver of the day, voted by you, was Nick De Vries. The tips, well, I'm starting to struggle, and I'm falling behind. I'm now in third place. Last is Pete, second T. Well, second last is T with 192 points. Pete's on 188. Then it comes to Cliff, 210. Myself, 211. And the Foley boys out in front. Jim, 213. And Pat, 215. Cliff and Jim had 16 correct guesses out of 20 for the Italian Grand Prix. Pat, you got 15, and myself, T and Pete, got 13. It wasn't a good week for me. I did not do very well, but I need to catch up. There's a few races to go. I think it's 6 or so races left. I think I can... Normally, I'm out in front, storming away, but not this year. The Foley boys, Cliff's on my tail. Don't know what to do. Then there's the Turd Championship. This is the reverse championship. This is the most interesting and closest championship you're going to have in Formula One. Now, the Turd Championship is the reverse. So if you get 25 points for a race win, congratulations, Max Verstappen. But if you finish dead last, that's right, if you finish dead last, just like Sebastian Vettel did, you get negative 25 points towards your Turd Championship, which means you're the shittest driver of the day. So negative 25 points towards Vettel, negative 18 to Alonso. Stroll gets negative 15, Ricciardo negative 12, Magnussen negative 10, Latifi negative 8, Tsunoda negative 6, Bottas negative 4, Mick Schumacher negative 2, and Ocon negative 1 towards their Turd Championship. Now the man in the lead is Nicholas Latifi. He's on negative 164. He is flying. Sweary Tsunoda, negative 149. Junior Schumacher, negative 124. Tsunoda is catching Latifi, and it's exciting. And the Great Wall of China, Zhou Guanyu is on negative 114, and Suck My Balls Magnussen is just ahead of him on negative 118. There is so many movers and shakers. It's a close battle. The Turd Championship, I love it. But next up we have the Singapore Grand Prix, the Singapore Sling, the street race, which has incredible humidity. This is a tough track. It has, how many corners does it have? Too many 90-degree corners, which is very dull and very boring. But this is what we're doing. It has 23 corners. It has 1, 2, 3 DRS zones, 1 speed trap down the end of the main straight. Now, this is an exhaustive track. As I just said, this is a tough one. This is where drivers will lose between 5 and 8 kilos during the race. Their water that they'll have in the car, it's about a litre. Anything more, it's going to take too much weight. And also, the heat and humidity of Singapore makes the water very warm very quickly and turns into a bit of a hot soup in the car. Sure, the ambient temperature is around 30. You've got humidity in the 70s to 80s. Probably a chance of rain and thunderstorms as there typically is in Singapore. But then you've got a street circuit. You're millimeters away from crashing. There's not a lot of runoff areas. And it's a place that's action-packed. So I'm looking forward to the Singapore Grand Prix, the Marina Bay Street Circuit. The circuit length is 5.063 kilometres, 61 laps. The first Grand Prix was in 2008. And the race distance is 308.706 kilometres in length. The lap record is held by Kevin Magnussen in 2018 with a 1 minute 41.905. The tyres they're choosing for this weekend is the C3, C4 and C5. I know, here comes the interesting part. They are 22 PSI on the front and 18 PSI on the rear. The camber is 3.5 degrees negative on the front tyre and 2 negative degrees on the rear. Any more than that, and you will be found out. You'll be excluded and everyone will call you a big fat cheat. The weather, now this is the most interesting and important thing. The weather. Thundery showers expected on Friday with a slight chance of rain expected in the evening session. Maximum temperature of 30 degrees. They say free practice 1 will be in the 29 degree, free practice 2 in the 28 degrees because it is a night race. So the afternoon session will be warm and then it'll kind of cool off. Only by a degree comes the afternoon or the evening session when the lights make their full effect. The minimum temperature expected is 26 degrees. Chance of rain 40%. On Saturday, free practice 3 in qualifying, they are saying weather expected to be clear overnight but with a moderate chance of rain in the morning and afternoon. Temperatures between 25 and 29. Chance of rain 60%. Now, Sunday, increasing chance of thundery showers throughout the day compared to previous days. Race air temperature is going to be 28 degrees. Chance of rain 60%. I hope it rains. It's always a great race if it rains. Not a great place hugely to overtake, but it can be done. And with these cars, they might be able to make those overtakes more frequently. The race times, if you're watching this weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, the night race in Singapore, these are the times that's going to happen in your neck of the woods. Auckland, you're going to be watching this race at 1 a.m. Monday morning. Melbourne, 11 p.m. I believe you'll have daylight savings by then, so you'll have 11 p.m. Nerang, Gold Coast, 10 p.m. Adelaide, 10:30 p.m. Perth, 10 p.m. Kathmandu, 5:45 p.m. Dubai, 4 p.m. Helsinki, 3 p.m. Stockholm, 2 p.m. London, 1 p.m. Sao Paulo, Brazil, 9 a.m. New York City, 8 a.m. Los Angeles, 5 a.m. That's an early morning start. And Honolulu in Hawaii, you are looking at a 2 a.m. start. The previous poll was Charles Leclerc with a 1 minute 36.217. And the winner was Sebastian Vettel ahead of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Now I'm going to sit down, relax, put my hand down my pants and get ready for the Singapore Grand Prix. I'll be enjoying some chili crab, which I'll make sure I wash my hands after eating the chili crab before thrusting the hand down the pantaloons. Noodles and a fish head curry. Nothing says Singapore quite like a fish head curry and washing it down with a Mountain Dew in a shopping bag and a straw. That is the Singapore way. Enjoy the Singapore Grand Prix. I'll be talking to you next week to preview the Tokyo, well, it's not Tokyo really, it's the Suzuka Japanese Grand Prix. Have a great weekend and talk to you then. Cheers, cunts.